Alright, it's just about ready to get some primer on it. So I've put in the guns. Don't mind the big mess I've made on my wing. So when I put the guns in, I dipped the back of them in CA glue, pushed them in position and made sure they were lined up level. And I, speeding the process up, I sprayed kicker and it went everywhere. And it stuff I use is, I don't like it, but I can't seem to find a different brand to try. Anyway, I tried wiping it off with alcohol and it made a mess, so I'll have to, when I prime it, check. I'll have to come back and sand it, clean it up and put in a few rivets. So I put in the photo etch. So this kit, I'm really impressed with this kit, because the last 1/32 trumpet I did was the F-41D, I think it was the D Corsair, and that was a lot older, obviously, and that just had some awful moments in that kit. But this kit, the only problem I've had with fit is these panels on top of the wing. I still don't know. I'm wondering if they're like a spoiler, like a to slow it down, or, but anyway, that's regardless. They didn't fit in. I had to sand a bit off the ends to get them to come down. They were too tight. Everything else on this kit just fits. It's really good. Even the fuselage to the wing section, beautiful. No filling required. The wing roots were matched up level, so that's an area, not just Trumpeter, any brand I've had issues with over the years, that area not fitting well. All the photo etch fit good. What I'm going to do is I will paint it off, because to get it the detail properly. Which side's which? And paint the flap off, and then I'll glue it on after at the end. But it's got little there's holes that'll line up to the actuators in there. I mean, you could spray it on there, but I know for a fact that I will bump it off. Like this part I've broken off I don't know how many times now. So, and I've put in all the clear parts and masked them with masking sole. I need to paint in the interior green for the gear bay and mask that off, and then I'll start priming. I did the cowl flap closed, but like I said, you got the option to have it. There's a different one in the kit to have it open. Cleaning up the seams on this one. I've tried it a couple of times here and there, just in a small area, but this build, the whole everywhere I had to fill in a gap in a seam. I tried UV resin. And I put up some pictures on Facebook of me doing it, and apparently it doesn't work. You can't use UV resin to do, it just doesn't bond to the plastic. But I had a couple of gaps along here, a bit along there, and a bit here. There you can see where I filled it. I need to prime it, and some areas around the wing where they sandwich together. And I'm not telling you to go out and do it, but I'm telling you, so far, from what I can see, it's worked. So I don't know why everyone says it can't be done. They say, oh, it won't bond to the plastic. Well, I'm thinking, well, you put CA glue on there, that's not plastic, that bonds to plastic, so I don't. Well, anyway. One guy said, oh, it'll leak out of your model. Oh, Jesus Christ, mate, what are you doing? Pouring it in. I'm using a tiny little brush, and I just brushed where the gap was in the seam, and then straight away come in with your UV light, dries off instantly. And then I didn't need to, but if you needed to, just keep doing thin layers and drying it off. Don't put a great big blob on there where it runs inside your model. Yeah, of course that's going to happen. That's common sense. Anyway, so like I said, I'm not saying it's worked, and it's not my idea. I've heard it mentioned quite a bit in modelling in the last several years since 3D printing's come along. People always trying new things, trying to make the process quicker. It's quicker than CA glue, unless you're using Kicker on CA glue, which I try to avoid. But yeah, I'm not telling you say this is the new best way to do it. I would, if you wanted to try it, I would suggest you try it on a small area, or if you got a mule kit that you try things on, something like that. The test for me is when I paint it and the model's done. If it still all looks the same, then to me that's worked. But anyway, so I need to paint the interior green on there, and the instrument combing, panel combing black, and then I can put on my windscreen. Around the guns I used I drilled the hole, and when I line them up, there's just a bit of a tiny gap around them, so I used perfect plastic putty. I put that on yesterday, let it set overnight, and then come in and dip the cotton bud in water and cleaned it up. But obviously it needs priming, and then I'll check it again, make sure it's alright. And that's really peeving me off. I need to fix that up. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for construction on the model. So there's really not a lot to the kit either. So it's pretty quick build, and it's big thumbs up from me. So I need to start sorting out this interior green, masking, and then prime, and then I can check it all over again, make sure it's all good, and then I can start getting into paint. I've painted in interior green on the aircraft where required for now. I still have to do that. What I'm doing, normally I would do this first, mask it off and spray the camouflage colours, but because it's so complex in there, I'm going to spray the camouflage, mask off that, and then come in and spray the interior green section of the interior of the flaps. Just it'll be easier to do it that way this time around. So the drop tank, what I've done is I've created some small dents in it. I figured so much use, sometimes they probably had them on, sometimes not, taking them on and off, maybe rushed, and sometimes they might have got a bit banged up. If not, well, a bit of BS goes a long way. So all I've done is use this burring tool and just randomly run over the plastic, and then I just piece of, not that one, that's two, piece of sponge, and just sanded it back down. So just a tiny effect, but little things you do like that are just something straying from out of the box. It to me anyway, you're making your model unique, that there is zero others exactly the same. So that's ready to be primed, and well, it is primed, I mean, to do my process of pre-shading in it. I just got to let this dry a bit more. I just gave it a clear gloss coat. Then I'm going to put in the windows. Oh, I've got to paint that into black. That's primer black on there at the moment. I'll use NATO black for that, and I'll put in the then I can start putting on that clear pass. That's another, I've said the kit's been really great so far, but that'll be the next test of how good it is, how good these parts fit. So we shall see. Right, I've just put on the windscreen and the side glass pieces. Not perfect fit, but not bad, as in the problem really with these side windows, whatever you want to call them, is they don't have a frame on the border that touches the grey styrene, and when you trim them off the sprue, it's hard to get that a nice flush edge because of the problem of that there is no frame. So once I cleaned them off, I did a dry fit, and they're slightly a little touch too big. So around the sides that sit in the recess, I used some sandpaper and just ran it along the edges, and they fit good. The windscreen fits good, but where it touches the fuselage on the front of it there, the leading edge of it, just again, bit of sandpaper. It was like kind of like a bit of a burr where it in the recess, and when I sanded it out, it sat good, but it wouldn't sit there as in sits neat. Don't need to hold it down. I had to put some tape over it, and because of this, the same with the windscreen, there's very minimal frame on it. So again, careful cutting off the sprue and cleaning it up. And for this reason, normally if I'm using, sometimes I'll just use extra thin to do clear parts, but definitely not on those windows because there's no frame. And because they had very little frame, I used crystal clear, but normally I just use it straight from the bottle. But I mixed it with some water and used a micro brush, ran it around where the clear plastic's touching, and then I sat them on. I didn't want to use it thick from the bottle because it would blob up on that edge. So just water it down a bit is what I did. And don't worry if when you do mix it and you think, oh, that's a bit runny, just let it sit for a while. The water will evaporate and it'll thicken up again. But that just to make it a bit neater, that's all. I didn't want to have too big, even though it dries clear, it might leave some sort of mark. So that needs to go off now for a couple of hours. So while that's drying off, I'm going to go start cutting some wood for the base for this, the little vignette I'm doing for it. Okay, I've cut out the size of the base I am using or wanting for this. So I just put the gear legs in there loose at the moment, just so I could get a better feel of what's going on. So remembering early on in the piece, I printed a whole heap of I can't think of the what it's called at the moment, the metal planking they used for makeshift airfields, the Marsden matting, that's the word. So I printed a heap of that out. Over the time, let's move this for a minute. Over time, the I gotta hold that. Some of it is warped because it's so thin and long. So what I'm going to do, the area that'll be where the planking will be, so it needs to be, it can't just be one piece wide. Come on. Don't worry about the, I've got a plan for the warped ones, and if it doesn't work I'll just print more. How am I going to do this? I'll have to do 2 anyway to make it. It probably, yeah, so it's just wide enough, but that's, in reality, that they couldn't land on just the width of the wheels. They need it wider. So anyway, you get the drift. I've got to work out how I'm doing this. And then where this stuff will sit, I'm probably going to cut out a thin piece of MDF and super glue it down, and then I'll put weight on top, ply or something on top, so these ones that curved will flatten out in theory. If not, like I said, I can just print more. I may need to yet anyway. I just printed a heap to start with. I didn't lay it all out because at the time I didn't know how big the base was going to be. So the aircraft will sit, the tail, it'll sit forward on this base, and I'll put some palm trees behind it. As mentioned, I saw a good picture of Bluey's aircraft sitting on the Marsden matting with the palm trees. Now, I need to fix that up. What else I've done here is, a while ago I bought a new toy. That's going to show up probably. I bought a laser engraver, Elegoo, for this kind of work, or you can do obviously for other things, which I have been doing, but this just, the machine, the watching it just blows my mind. But this is to add to a display, like I did that tank diorama, and I had a nameplate made up for it, and it cost me $30, and it was about that big. Now I just need to do use this machine 10 times, and I've paid for it. So that just makes sense to me. If you're doing a lot of work that requires that sort of thing, not that I do it all the time, but it will give me motivation to do a little bit more here and there to make it something nice up. So I'm really happy with that. As usual, ply, it's flat, but when you cut it, and then it gets a wobble. But I'll put felt feet under it anyway. But that's besides the point. As you can see, it's still wet from the glue. I'm going to go sit this out in the sun to dry it quicker. It'll dry quick today. It's still winter here, but it's about 29 degrees Celsius. So as usual, we're going to skip spring. So that's making progress. I can now go back, check out the windows on the model. Should be right now. I need to mask these side ones up. I should be able to take the tape off of that. And now that I've made a base, I can work out, I'm going to print the palm tree trunks on my filament printer. And so now I've got an idea of how the model, how high it is and how high I want these trees. So they'll have to be at the back. Obviously can't have them there. And in reality, I know the palm tree wouldn't be behind the Marsden matting because they would have taxied around onto that. But you got to be realistic when you're doing a display base. You can't have it a metre by a metre just because you're going to put a couple of bloody trees somewhere. For reality, you've got to compact it, in my eyes anyway. That's how I'm approaching it. So I'm going to measure that up, and I'm going to start printing them because they're because of the height, they take ages to print.